calling ourselves leaders must mean that we are leading ourselves well. We need to be mentors and models, not martyrs. So we owe it to the next generation to break the generational cycle of self-neglect and teach them what leadership looks like. And it starts with our managing ourselves. And that means showing respect for the human physical self, the spiritual self, the emotional self that is doing the work.
Hello, possibility seekers. I'm back. Did you ever want to talk to someone that just makes you feel better? Or have someone just make sense of what you can't figure out? Or just really understand where you are in life and give you the tools and the strategies to make it better? Give you some lessons on self care, but in a realistic way? Well, I've got that guest today, and her name is Katie McDonald. Let me tell you a little bit about Katie. Katie McDonald is the founder of b.nourished, a concierge coaching company for high achieving women who take care of business at the expense of taking care of themselves. Does anybody find this sounding familiar, by the way? Since she was 6 years old, she's had a relentless and unnerving obsession with daily planners, ultimately publishing the Be Nourished Planner when we all needed it most in 2020. A professional speaker, strategist, and author who is trusted by Harvard University, Fidelity Investments, Facebook, Women's President Organization, Stanley Black& Decker, and so many more, Katie has been featured in HuffPost, Dwell, Apartment Therapy, and many others. Her Audible Originals course launches in 2026, in January of 2026. She survived an IRA bombing attack in London, the San Francisco earthquake, the rescue of a ferry sinking in the Baltic, and an emergency crash landing in Tokyo. But it was a Zen meditation retreat that finally took her down. Welcome, Katie. How are you?
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
So we're going to spare the audience the nonsense, but it turns out that somebody introduced me to Katie only to find out that we had met 30 years prior in a very similar circle of influence. Isn't that bizarre?
I love life.
Life is so interesting. It just is. So it's I just have to ask you because we have similar roots. You started your career in this big corporate media publishing behemoth. That's the word I was looking for. What had you do the pivot to entrepreneurship?
I'd love to say it was a choice, but I actually was so addicted to doing that I crashed. And I really hit the basement of rock bottom, which was the teacher I needed in order for me to wake up and understand I'm not a human doing, I'm a human being who requires maintenance and attention and intent and intention in her life. So disease and disease forced me. I had ulcerative colitis, pneumonia, shingles, asthma, allergies, anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation. I mean, I had hit rock, basement of rock bottom. And it's what it took to wake me up to realize that, you can't get away with this anymore. I needed an intervention. And that is how, and I also, on the other, so I got so sick, I made a vow to myself that if I can recover, if I implement all the things I read about that were really just kind of mind candy, all the nutrition and all the mindfulness and meditation and alternative health and all these things that I was obsessed with, like really passionate about, but never implemented, I started to implement. And I healed within 6 months. And I vowed I'm going to go back to my tribe of doers. I'm going to teach them how to be.
Wow. I need that to land for people for a second. So disease ridden suicidal ideations in 6 months with the holistic, nourishing practices that you had been obsessed with, but from the sidelines. You got on the court and you got yourself in action, and then you healed yourself in 6 months.
Yes. And I would say it's interesting you said sidelines because I It's really important. That's why I'm really interested in implementation. I mean, that is everything. That's the game changer. But our brain actually tells us we're doing it when we read it. It's like we listen to a podcast and it's like, oh, our brain thinks I actually just implemented all this wisdom that I just heard. And it's not so I actually had to put the action behind and break that really that slumber um, and wake up and say, okay, this actually being a human being requires effort and intervention and engagement, and that's what changed everything.
So that brings us to the question. Your company name is B, as in the letter B, period, nourished. And I just want to understand the genesis of how that came to be, pardon the pun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the being part we already discussed. The really capturing the being part versus human doing, but the nourished piece is I really think I think we're starving. I think we are all starving. I think we are in desperate need to be soothed. And I think the majority of the world is operating like toddlers who have not been put down for their nap. And I don't mean that to be mean. I just mean we are not taking care of ourselves. We're not parenting ourselves. And if we didn't get what we needed when we were younger, it's our job to step up. The baton has been passed at age 18. The baton is passed and it's our responsibility. And that's what I realized. Like I had to parent myself. I had to nourish myself. And I do think we are starving. We don't know how to self-soothe, but we're really good at numbing. And that's what I think COVID cracked us open to that wisdom, realizing like the alcohol use, the social media, I mean, people don't know how to be in their own company. And so how do we take care of something or someone that we don't even know?
You're dropping so many like truth bombs at one time that it's I hope people listening are really taking note of what you said from the perspective of we don't know how to self-soothe, but we do know how to numb. Masterclass right there. Like let's create that right now. So that is so true, and I'm thinking about the times when I've hit the wall. I definitely knew how to numb, and I definitely didn't know how to self-soothe. I'm not even sure I know. I mean, I know I have the tools now and I have the practices because I my thing is everything is possible with intention, planning, and action. Without action, nothing happens, right? So you can't think your way out of a bad diet. You can't think your way out of not moving your body. You can't think your way out of not engaging with humans. Like you can't think or listen to podcasts and expect that to happen to be. And a lot like myself, I think I related to this when you said I'm a recovering perfectionist, and I love that. Tell me, walk us through what happened to realize that that wasn't an option for you anymore.
Again, forced. I mean, like, I mean, I created Be Nourished so that people didn't have to be forced. I want them to have agency. And I didn't. I had to create a scenario where I didn't have choices. So the fact is, the perfectionism is something we often don't choose, right? It's a unconscious strategy of survival and a misguided attempt at self-soothing, right? And so I realize it doesn't work. Like it does not work. It's not an effective, sustainable strategy. And so we can get really pragmatic about it and say, if that is your mojo, then I would encourage you to think differently and to embrace another approach because it's simply not sustainable. It's an attempt to control in a world that feels out of control, and it sets a standard that is actually very isolating. And it's not achievable. It's not definitely not sustainable. And it made me sick. And so what does good enough look like for someone who's a high achiever? In fact, my tagline for Be Nourished is because mediocrity is beneath you. And I say that because we have such excruciatingly high standards for ourselves. If you're listening to your podcast, you have high standards for yourself. You are our people, you are our tribe. And and yet we slum it when it comes to our own well-being because we tell ourselves we can get away with it. I'll get to it later. I'll do it then after this, after that, but never now. And then, it often takes some sort of external push to get us to step into the responsibility of being a human being. And I'd like to change that. I'd like to actually be able to do it because we say the way I'm working my life isn't working for me.
Wow. So again, so many truth bombs, and I can't tell you how much I in agreement with every single word you just said. How do you, and this is off script here for a second, but how do you help, and I guess it's mostly women really, but how do you help them see it when they don't see it from themselves? They're in, let's say, crisis mode and it's not working, and they know that, and they're all the things, sick, depressed, blah, 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 blah. However, they don't see the forest from the trees. I've been there. So, how do you like, what's the first step in the process to understand that self-care is not selfish and you need to put yourself through this whole cycle?
Yeah, I would say that the most common condition, so to speak, is overwhelm, right? For high achieving people and particularly women, it's overwhelm. And that's also a habit, right? It's a habit. Overwhelm is a habit. So I don't have a prescription for everyone. The first thing is to meet people where they are, to feel seen. Just as we were talking about before we started recording, it's like we have a deep, desperate need to be seen and thinking that we're going to have someone else validate our very existence. And the truth is, we're waiting for ourselves to see ourselves, right? Like, let's see ourselves. So you're right. You can't, all you know is that you're miserable and that life isn't working and you can't see a way out. And it takes that before someone who is so accomplished would say, I need help. Right. And I'm that help. And I hold what they can't see yet. I hold what I know after 15 years of doing this work, not to mention the decades of working on myself, what's possible on the other side. Right. The possibilities as you speak to. And so the first thing is seeing them where they are and helping, like loving them through it. Right. Like, it's okay. We're going to get you on the other side. I understand you can't see it, but I can. So borrow my faith right now. And I take the burden of solving it off them. They can't. If you're in survival mode, you are in no position to unthink your way or even undo your way out of where you are right then. The current state you're in is what created your current state. So we need another perspective. So that's the first thing. And the other thing is I give concrete homework, really simple stuff that is so easy to blow off. And it's just, the simplest it is the stuff that's likely to be, the greatest resistance. We think it's got to be some flashy, glamorous program, some extreme diet, some this, some that. And it's these simple things, and that's their homework. And they're desperate enough and they've paid enough. It's an investment in working with me. It's an investment in themselves intentionally to honor the work and my craft and to have them say, this is an investment in you. And it may be the first one you've ever made, not in your career. This is an investment in your career, but in you. So then it's this homework of, okay, for the next 2 weeks, because I see clients every 2 weeks, for the next 2 weeks, it might be we're going to shut the TV off at 10 o'clock. And it might be we're going to actually go without social media for 2 weeks. And we're just going to determine. So I love removing habits so that we can determine what impact it's having on us. We're going to remove alcohol for the next 2 weeks. Let's see what happens. We're going to add leafy greens to every meal. And let's see. And it's always, look, this is a 2 week window. And after 2 weeks, you're the expert on you. You may be coming to me, but you are the expert on you. And so for 2 weeks, this is what I want you to try. I'm available. Like, my clients can access me. It's concierge coaching. They can access me throughout. They're not white knuckling it for 2 weeks. I want to be able to course correct if we need to in the middle. But they start doing, and they do without the sense of like, I'm going to have to give this up forever. It's like, and we're going to renegotiate in 2 weeks. But for the next 2 weeks, we're going to observe with gentle, loving compassion what happens when we add this habit or remove this habit. And slowly, like, they feel better immediately. They feel a sense of control in a way that they didn't before. And they actually start feeling physically better. So I start with the physical habits first, because if you're eating junk all day and you're on a sugar high, I can't get through to you about anything else that's going on in your life. If you are sleep deprived, emotionally depleted, physically depleted, I have to address where the fires are at the physical level first and foremost. And then they feel better. And then all of a sudden, the drive to keep, it's not a motivation. Like, it's not a motivation. Motivation is a fickle lover and an unreliable source of energy. But it becomes this, I feel good and I want to keep feeling good.
It's definitely addictive. It's funny, I talk about we're so aligned. I talk about micro decisions. There are these tiny little decisions that you make every day, all day long. Is it the donut? Is it the fruit? Is it the gym or is it the couch? Is it social media or is it the walk? Is it positive Patty or negative Nelly? It's all these little tiny decisions that you make, and then they have compounded interest, the fifth wonder of the world. And here we are, So if you make these little tiny decisions all day long, they end up being really great habits at the end. You talk about self-care not being a luxury, and that's something we all hear, but I don't think we internalize. And it's a responsibility, you say. What do you say to people who still feel guilty about prioritizing themselves?
Yeah, I say welcome to the human race. This is a human condition. Particularly women are groomed to be of service to everyone else. So, what I say is guilt isn't going to go away easily. I mean, I was raised Catholic, so I can speak to this. Guilt is one of the last things to let go. So, if that's the case, let's just leverage guilt. I like to leverage it. If it's going to be here, let's just give it a different job. Let's feel guilty for not taking care of yourself. Let's feel guilty for when you didn't sleep well, you're not eating well, you drank too much, you did, and not in a shame way, but like, I don't feel good. And therefore, I'm bringing a compromised version of myself to my clients, a compromised version to my family. I'm going to be grouchy. I'm going to be reactive. I'm going to be snippy. I'm not going to be visionary or creative, the things that my company might be paying me to do, or I'm paying myself to do, or a client's paying me to do. They are getting a fraction of what they should be getting had you been showing up for yourself the way you show up for everyone and everything else. So go ahead, feel guilty, but feel guilty when you choose mediocrity for your own well being.
I love that. The reversal of the guilt factor is brilliant.
I've tried to fight it, and I realize my clients, like, they hang on. It's like a familiar blanket. They are not gonna let go. So it's like, well, great. We're gonna give it a job, and we're just gonna assign it a different job. And, I wanna go back to those micro decisions because I think you made a really good point. These micro decisions, it is these little things that don't feel important, but with the compound effect, they become very important. I would even say my work is trying to remove those micro decisions. My work is about figuring out what makes us feel our best, what makes us feel good, what makes us like ourselves. Not all like I've got to love myself and flowers and roses and like all that stuff. I've spent years trying to like love myself and all I did was stay stuck. So I'm talking about like yourself, actually spend time with yourself. Like your life, feel proud of your life. Once we figure out what makes us thrive, not just survive or strive, when we figure that out, we now have a responsibility to consistently do it. Not perfectly, but consistently do what we know makes us feel good. And then all of a sudden there are no more micro decisions. I mean, that's why we're binging at 3 o'clock. We're banging on the candy bar, vending machine at 3 o'clock. We're tired naturally, but those micro decisions claw at us. They deplete our energy. I think they deplete us to the point of surrender. And then we're face planted in the pantry. We're gulping down goblets of wine to take the edge off, like all these things. It's like, let's remove the micro decisions. Let's learn. At the end of 6 months, my clients know, like, wow, when I go to bed at this time, I feel really good. Therefore, I want to feel good. Therefore, I'm going to go to bed. When I move my body this way, I feel better. And all of a sudden, those micro decisions, they're not choices. Like, we don't have to make those choices anymore. It's who we are.
They become a default state of being as opposed to, I have to think about whether or not I wanna go out for that walk. I know that if I don't go out for that walk, I'm gonna be cranky, and because nobody wants to have a meeting with me in cranky state.
I don't want to be with me in cranky states. Like, right.
I do think you also dropped another truth bomb, which is people are not necessarily comfortable and like themselves and wanna spend time with themselves.
Well, they don't know themselves, really. Yeah. It's lack of self-awareness. Yeah.
Yes, it's this notion that it's very vulnerable because you strip away the activities. It's sort of like women who I have, had the privilege of knowing and coaching have been when the children leave the nest, they are faced with, "Who am I?" Because their identity has been wrapped around the child for so long, or the children, and now the purpose has been removed, so it's either the creation of new purpose or aligning with what is in my heart for myself. And I think that's a hard place for a lot of women.
Very. I mean, we are more invested in the postured lives of acquaintances and strangers on social media than we are in ourselves. And so one of the rituals that I introduce to my clients, and the one that causes the greatest amount of stress and resistance, is actually a tea habit. I created a custom blend of tea that has herbal components that address each of these elements, right? Of anxiety, and digestion, and all these things that I'm seeing, and anxiety, depression, and energy, right? So I created a blend, and really it was, I want you to have a tea ritual. I want you to wake up at any point, but preferably in the morning, when the veil of sleep is still there, right? That from the moment we boil the water till we take that last sip of tea, be still and be in our own company, and learn how to endure our own company for the length that it takes to boil the cup of water and have the last sip. And I have to say, it is excruciating for people who are so, and this was me for years. And I can still go there, right? As you know, I'm in the middle of a move and there's a lot going on. And it's like, I have to do that because I need to reconnect with myself, because me, living neck up is not an effective person. And she's not grounded and kind. She is driven to the point of almost self-bullying. Right? It becomes a form of abuse to neck up, right? So inhabiting the full body, the act of tea, and it could be something else in its place, but it activates every sense. And that's what I love about it. It's every sense, from the mug that we're holding to the smell, the taste, the sound of the water boiling, like every sense. It reminds us of our humanness, and then leads to more compassion.
It is amazing what you're saying. It's really amazing. It's, so most of my listeners are in one way, shape, or form women in leadership. And there are some non-negotiable self-care habits that you recommend for women in that ilk. How do you define that, and how do you convey that to a woman that is in leadership, that is living neck up and knows it, at least intellectually she knows it? How did what's the shift there?
Well, the first step is, calling ourselves leaders must mean that we are leading ourselves well. We need to be mentors and models, not martyrs. My clients in C-suite, owning their own company, they are over functioning for everyone else and underperforming for themselves. And what's happening is they're infantilizing their team often. Women in leadership are infantilizing their team, especially entrepreneurs. And this is a perfectionist bit. This is the control, the struggle in delegating. They need it to be their way, right? And they're not slowing their role enough to do the not urgent but important work, right? Of training, setting standards, setting practices, and so I've reframed time management is at the core of really everything that I do. But what I do is actually capitalize the ME in time, because time management is me management. We can't manage time; it's fixed, but we're not. And often we're really not showing up for the ways in which we could manage ourselves differently. So we owe it to the next generation to break the generational cycle of self neglect and teach them what leadership looks like. And it starts with our managing ourselves. And that means showing respect for the human physical self, the spiritual self, the emotional self that is doing the work.
I really, the infantilizing the team, s statement really hits home, because I was just saying this yesterday when we were talking about saying no so you can protect your yeses, and managing your calendar and color blocking and coding and all those tools that you and I know. However, it's this idea that, "Oh, I don't, just let me give them the answer. It's quicker, faster." 'Cause by the time I explain it to you, I could have already done it, but then you create a behavioral pattern.
We're co-conspirators in the yeah. So this is the time where I think it's a good moment to share an intervention, which is, if you think about the pause button and it's the two lines, right? And we could think of this line as our present self. And that present self is like, oh my God, let me just tell them how to do it because really, like, I got things to do, right? Let me just do it myself. Let me just get it done the right way. And we swoop in and cover for the ill prepared and compensate for the passive, rescue the overwhelmed. There we are. That's us, our present self. Like, let me just get it done. Well, the next line can be our future self. If we pause and consult our future self is like, oh, honey, you don't want that second cocktail. You're not going to be able to get up to go for your walk in the morning, or you're not going to think clearly for that, 8 a.m. meeting, right? That future self is saying, take the time to train, to document, and empower. It will serve you. So we're very disconnected from that future self because the pauses feel like lack of productivity or maybe even laziness. But it isn't, it's a strategy. It is a strategy that to leverage pauses, to leverage self care, because our competitors, if you believe in that, right? Our competitors, they're not doing it. That's how we get a competitive edge. They are not leveraging well being, they're not leveraging clear thinking, stamina, future thinking, right? And that's how we get a competitive edge. So introducing pauses throughout the day will get us to connect with our future self and be like, okay, because the future self has all the wisdom. We don't have to figure it out in anywhere, including a podcast. It's already there.
So, pauses in future I love the pauses during the day. I also love pauses in sentences. Just like and yet, because we always rush to fill in the gap.
Guilty. But you're absolutely right. It's powerful. And as a speaker, I have had to learn how to slow my roll and create the space so that it lands.
How do you help clients redefine productivity in the culture that celebrates burnout, like activity, constant motion? It's like this notion of beat and pause and hope. As a strategy, you have to tell that to a type A plus entrepreneurial woman or corporate woman who's, climbing through the ranks and whatever. And you're now saying to her, chill the and she's going, "You don't understand. You don't understand my life." And meanwhile, you really do because 'cause you've been there, but okay.
You know, really what I say is, how's that working for you, honey? Like,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh in the middle of
right? I
this.
mean, if you're talking to me, if you've even entered my sphere, it's not working for you. And it may not be front and center yet in the form of disease and symptoms, but it may be like your friends stop asking you to go out because you keep blowing them off, right? You choose work, or it may be that you're so tired and you're like, can I keep doing this? Like I just can't keep doing this. Or, you're supposed to kind of climb the next rung and you're like, really? I just don't have it in me. I mean, that's what I would say. Like, if it's all working for you right now, you're getting away with it, go for it, right? Go for it if it's working for you. But
Yeah, but then again, I would imagine if they're engaging with you on any level, unless they met you at a networking event.
usually they've met somebody who's worked with me and they're like, I want what does she have? I want that. And what she has is peace of mind. What she has is access to stamina and vitality and clarity and creativity and well-being. And she has strategies for when she strays, because you will stray. Like, we're human. We're going to fall off our path, but most of us don't have a path. So we need to build that path brick by brick, habit by habit, and then we actually know when we've strayed off. But most of us don't have a path, and we wonder why it's just so hard to navigate all the bumps. Well, we haven't laid down a path of habits done consistently that work for us. And I encourage you to challenge those habits every 90 days. That's why my planner is a 90-day planner. It's seasonally.
I just want you guys to see the inside of this planner because it is the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen. And it will ask you questions and will give you do not confuse rest with laziness. It gives you daily activities, affirmations, implementation schedules. It keeps you within the bumper guards.
Accountable to yourself.
Yes, and I love that about it. What do I need? How do I feel? How do I want to show up today? Questions to really have you think and do and be.
Well, that is high praise from you. Thank you.
So yes, I'm breaking it open and I'm going to break it out and start doodling on it. It's fabulous. Fabulous. We want to talk about you have this you're very clear about intentionality. I want you to talk about boundaries and how you have your clients sort of understand that in a sustainable, healthy life, you have to have boundaries, you have to set boundaries. Like, what does that look like?
Boundaries are huge. I mean, you know this in your work and in your life. It's huge. I mean, one of the first things that I teach my clients is that no is a complete sentence. We over explain or just explain. And we don't need to because then now we've got things open for negotiation. And if you are somebody that has caved repeatedly, right, then they're just going to have to last 1 second longer, right? And you're done. So we're really good at saying no. Like people say, "Oh, I'm not good at saying no." I'm like, you say it to yourself all day long. So like, let's just say it somewhere else. So boundaries start with the confidence, the unapologetic confidence of saying no and leave it at that. And if you need to repeat it, no. The minute we explain, we lose our power. So boundaries are vital, but they're also boundaries for us, right? Like, what is it that works for us? And then how do we hold ourselves upright? So, the scaffolding of our lives, the boundaries of our own lives, we've got to figure out what deeply matters to us and then honor it consistently. So, it's setting boundaries with ourselves as well.
Yeah, it's really funny. We were just talking about that yesterday. It's like, stop talking. Just no, I won't think that that's not gonna I'm committed that day. Thank you.
Thank you for thinking of me. I'm not available, period. Yeah. And then run if you have to. I mean, if you're gonna cave, run.
You're gonna say something stupid, shut up and run. But it is this idea that we say I said to someone, I said, to the group, "Stop saying I'm sorry unless you've done something wrong or you've broken the law, you're not sorry."
I always say save sorry for the big stuff, right? Yeah, the big stuff, because then it actually has power. Yeah, we keep apologizing for our lives, for things that were never ours to own in the first place. Yeah. But our well-being is ours to own. And that's where we're not putting our attention.
Isn't it funny? I mean, it's not funny, haha, but it's sort of so I wanna talk about integrity-based decisions. What you say your mission, one of your missions is to help people make integrity-based decisions, and I think I know what that means, but I want you to kind of unpack that.
Yeah, I see it as alignment, right? Integrity based decision. So if somebody says, let's say you've been invited to be on a board or you've been invited somewhere to some committee or some event or something, and you say, "Oh yeah, I'd love to. Yes, I'll be like yes." And the minute that person walks away, you're like, "Shit, oh my god!" And you're like, "Why did I do this?" And you feel that immediate self abandonment and you feel regret and rage and resentment. Like resentment is legit. Resentment is when we're overgiving for everyone else and we're not tending to our own needs. So trust when resentment shows up. So when we're doing that, I think that's inauthentic. I don't think that's an integrity-based decision. That is a plea to be liked. That is a good girl who cannot be good to herself. You can't be a good girl and be good to yourself. So I don't want somebody to give to me when they're giving out of a desire to be liked or an inability to say no, right? Or lack of clarity.
Yes, I call it alignment, it's integrity, it's, like, not being who you say you wanna be. And so, yeah, it's totally true. It's totally true. We talk about food, you and I, and we know that, well, it can either solve for a lot of things or create a lot of problems. How do you talk about a healthier relationship with food with your clients in this non-nutritionist way, right? So pragmatically.
I should say that I've had a tortured relationship with food for most of my life. I mean, I struggled with food. I would just eat to soothe, right? Because I didn't have other skills as a child to soothe. I didn't have the vocabulary. I didn't have the language. I didn't have the tools or the resources. So I used food to just quiet me to numb. And you can't process excess food and emotions at the same time. Like it's physiologically, you can't, right? Like we say, we've got like a pit in our stomach. Like our stomach is, there's a lot of emotional intelligence there. So it actually shuts down emotional processing. So it is actually a quite effective strategy. I would not recommend it, but it is. It's one of the ways that we numb. So the first things I do with my clients is I make sure that physically, these habits of sleep, nutrition, these basic foundational habits, like have you been to the doctor? Like a lot of people haven't. These people that highly accomplished, they blowing off their doctor's appointments and have got blood work done. Like we need to be right. We need to be responsible caregivers of ourselves. So I address that because if they are in a sugar coma, there's no way I can get through to them. Like if I can't get through to them in other ways. So I've studied nutrition for decades. I have certification as a holistic health coach. I also, when I got sick, the first thing, and I've been plant based for 40 years, and so what I did when I first got sick is I turned to food. The very thing that had made me. I mean, I had an addiction to sugar, was binging on sugar to fuel the inhumane expectations I had for myself, like all of these things. So I turned to food in its purest, simplest form. So I actually went on to study raw food and became a raw food chef and instructor because I truly did believe that food in its purest state, when left unadulterated, had the nutrition to heal. And that's how I juiced. I ate raw foods for 6 months, and I healed a very serious condition. So I do work. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a nutritionist, but I know a lot. And again, it's about clients knowing who they are. They are the experts. So I'm like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. Like, what are you currently eating for breakfast? What are you eating for lunch? What are you eating for dinner? Are you energized after you eat? Okay, if you're not, then what you're eating is not serving you. What you are serving is not serving you. So we start changing it up, and I will always look for more color. If you want a colorful life and an energetic life, I'm going for the color. I'm going to find it in blueberries. I'm going to find it in raspberries. I'm going to find it in red peppers. And the minute we cook it, we really, I mean, Mother Nature knows what she's doing. Our job is to get out of the way. So food is really, really important for us. And yet we don't think about, like, we have these inhumane expectations for ourselves, but we don't think how we're going to fuel them. So this is foundational stuff, but needs to happen. And because we're living neck up, it's as if we don't have a body. I didn't drink water because I didn't want to have to pee. The lunch I would eat would be at fancy restaurants, nibbling on salad in posh restaurants with clients and colleagues. And then I'd, binge on candy bars in my company car and shove the wrappers under the seat. That was how I navigated it because I just was a human doing. I had too much to do. Eating was a nuisance, you know? Life and maintenance of the body was a nuisance, an obstacle, instead of now what I understand as something to be honored and also leveraged. And the pleasure part's hard because I've had such a long, tortured relationship, the addiction to sugar and binging and all of these things. And I've done a tremendous amount of work, but pleasure I'm still working on with food. And right now it's more, I ask myself, what do I need? As you referenced in the planner, I have my clients ask that question every day. What do I need? And that's how we repair the relationship with ourselves. The wisdom that's there, that's that pause, that wisdom emerges and we start getting all the information, all the answers that we need when we actually repair our relationship with ourselves by showing interest in ourselves, and then do right by ourselves by implementing them, even when it's inconvenient, even when we tell ourselves we don't have time. And we start understanding very quickly, like there's no more resistance to these habits because we like how we feel. We like ourselves. And it's our job to befriend ourselves.
If someone's listening to this right now, feels very disconnected to who they are and is the poster child for what you've described, what is the one thing you want them to do other than call you, obviously? But in the interim, what do you want them to immediately do or say or whatever?
Yeah, I would circle back to this question of what do I need? I would pause, I would shut the outside world out. And I would actually just ask, what do I need? And I promise, say it as you're drifting off to sleep, say it first thing when you wake up, say it at any opportunity, and the answers will come. And I want you to know, whatever the first, no filtering, no filtering and no judgment. This is gentle observation. I want those answers to bubble up and I want you to take them seriously. If it comes up, then consider it valid and then do it. And then do whatever, when you ask the question again, whatever comes up, what do I need? There's so many times where I used to think I wouldn't ask that question and I would just gravitate towards, just eating too much food to just like, oh my God, you don't have time for needs, girl. Like bury those down under too much food or too much doing or too much anything, right? And I would swing from hyper productive state to like hiding in this, like hoping I'd get sick so I had permission to rest, you know? And that's what we do when we're working so hard. We actually create this pendulum, this extreme where all of a sudden we're forced to collapse. And that would is the only scenario that I allowed myself to rest was when I was sick. So I would create a scenario that allowed for illness.
So much of our illnesses are brought on by stress or the body's trying to tell you something.
It is. It has the answers. It absolutely does. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you the best career advice you ever got.
Yeah, I think it's probably more the best career wisdom that I got from, just myself, like learning. And that is actually really staying true to who you are. When I think about when I was working in that big media company, I was bringing my clients essential oils, and I was like, if someone had a cold, I was like, bringing them a peppermint tea, and like I was caring for them. Like I was caring for them that way. And my renewal rate was through the charts because people are desperate to be seen and be cared for. But it told me what I really wanted to be doing. That I think envy and jealousy, when we see someone and they're in their careers and they're doing something and we want that and we're jealous of them, like um, I think that's a great prompt for what I want. And I saw now that I look at myself, I was like, oh my gosh, it was all there. It was right in front of me. And I had a friend who was an acupuncturist and I was so jealous of her work because she was helping people heal. And I was like, I love acupuncture, but I don't want to be an acupuncturist. So what is it? And I was like, I was curious about it after I got over just the sneers that I would send in my good friend's direction. I was just so resentful. And it was like, oh, this is a me issue. This is me longing for something that I haven't given myself permission to pursue.
So take that it's a lens change what you're describing. It's not seeing it in a negative, it's seeing it as a positive, like, what can you learn from your reaction to this outside person? What are you seeing in what they might be exhibiting or have created for themselves that you might want to create for yourself?
But you have to show the curiosity with yourself, right? To be curious, like, oh, wow, I'm feeling like resentment and jealousy. Like, what is this? And instead of judging it and labeling it, be curious in this kind way, right? To quiet and quell the bully voice in our head.
So on that note, what is the worst career advice you ever received?
Do something that you're good at. I'm really, really good at sales. I am. I mean, that was my career, and life is sales. But like, just because you're good at it doesn't mean you should or must.
Love that. And lastly, my favorite question is if you had the opportunity to speak with your 30-year-old Katie self, what would you tell her?
I would tell her that fun and pleasure are legitimate pursuits.
Stop right there. Fun and pleasure are legitimate pursuits. Well, I'll be a monkey's uncle.
We don't know how to have fun. I hear this. Oh, my clients really, and I will say myself too. I mean, if you're a doer, like the fun part also becomes like we have fun doing things, right? But a lot of it is tasks and productivity and completion and checking off this and checking off that and like learning this kind of surrender to fun and understanding it's totally legit and it's important. Boy, I wish I could have figured that out sooner.
Katie McDonald, I can't tell you how much fun I've had. So I could talk to you for hours, and we probably will, and make that happen. I want to put all the show notes, contact information for Katie will be in the show notes. And for those of you who are interested to just find some new ways of being happy and engaged and more joyful and I don't know, show up like the best version of yourselves, I think you should talk to Katie because I feel better just having been here.
I loved being with you. Thank you. And thank you for introducing me to your audience.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. My pleasure. So, possibility seekers, I'm going to ask you to hit the subscribe button because I understand that there are a lot more of you that are listening than are subscribing. So, that does absolutely nothing other than to alert you that there is a new episode to be watched or listened to. Also, before we wrap up, I just want to let you know that if you're interested in buying Katie's wonderful planner because mediocrity is beneath you, you can use promo code Monique15 to get 15% off at checkout. I promise you, I do not get a cent of it. I just want you guys to get in the work and get in the game. So go to her website and do Monique 15 for your 15% off. Thank you. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Possibilities with Monique de Maio, where we unpack life as a female mover and shaker. If you like the show, please consider liking it, or better still, subscribing to it and leaving us a rating. It truly does help. Also, you can pick up my book, The 7 Secrets to Creating a Life You Love, a practical guide for women in leadership. You can find the book, other episodes of this podcast, and how to stay in touch at moniquedemaio.com. DEMAIO. I look forward to seeing you again soon. With gratitude, Monique.